Hello, we're the History Hikers. I'm Dries.
And I'm Jente.
And we're standing in front of the castle of Verneuil-en-Halatte.
They started building this castle in 1560, but all the owners, they died before it was finished.
All the owners.
Well, there were like 2 or 3, they died.
Okay.
And then in 1600, it was sold to the king, who then gave it as a gift to his mistress, and only then it was finished. So that's quite a lovely gift. So where's my castle, Dries?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a 16th century castle, and I'll keep the medieval castles for myself. So it's not medieval, but looks cool anyway. Let's go check it out. Welcome back to one of our last few videos from this trip to northern France. Before we can get to the castle, we need to scale the hill, which can get quite steep at times. The village of Verneuil-en-Halatte is located in the south of the Oise department in northern France. It is nestled on the edge of the Halatte forest on the left bank of the river Oise. The remains of the castle are located on top of a small hill overlooking the town. The name Verneuil is derived from the Gallic Verneuil-en-Halatte, which means something like a glade with alder trees. We found no clear etymology for Halatte.
Though the whole region has been inhabited since prehistoric days and archaeological research has found interesting Roman remains nearby, the history of the castle only starts in the 16th century. Its plans were designed in the 1550s by architect Jacques Androuet du Cerceau for Philippe IV of Boulainvilliers, who was living in the Château d'Ambach nearby. He wanted to build a new Renaissance castle high on top of a hill with a wide view over the surrounding countryside.
In its design, the castle was organized around a square courtyard surrounded on 3 sides by one-story buildings and closed off on the 4th side by a gallery. At each of the corners stood a 2-story pavilion topped by a dome. The architecture was richly ornamented and contained many sculpted elements, including 40 life-size statues.
In 1575, Boulainvilliers was forced to sell the still unfinished castle because of debts. It was bought by Duke Jacques de Savoie-Nemours and his wife Anne d'Este. They commissioned the architect's son-in-law Jean Bros to continue the work. The first rooms were ready for habitation by the end of the same year, but when the Duke died in 1585, the south wing and the entrance pavilion were still not finished.
The castle was then bought by the French king Henri IV in 1599, who gifted it along with the title of Marchioness to his mistress Henriette d'Entragues. The task of completing the castle was entrusted to Salomon de Bros, the son of Jean Bros.
The Marchioness died in 1633. Her son, Henri de Bourbon-Verneuil, inherited the castle. After his death, his widow gave it to her son as a dowry, who would go on to sell it in 1705 to Henri-Jules de Bourbon-Condé, after which the castle passed to his successor, who didn't even use it. At this point in time, the castle was deteriorating heavily and fell into disrepair.
In 1724, maintenance stopped entirely, and then 10 years later demolition of the castle began. It could continue for a good 40 years. The stones were recuperated and used for the construction of the castle in Saron. At its current ruined and overgrown state, it is not easy to see what the castle palace used to look like. The façade of the Palais du Luxembourg in Paris is a great example, as it was inspired by the castle in Verneuil-en-Halatte. That was the Château de Verneuil-en-Halatte. Yeah, it was quite cool to see. Not a lot to see. Most of it's off limits. Yeah.
Or covered in plants.
Or covered in plants. Yeah, let's continue on with the castle score. The
Subjective arbitrary castle score.
That one. I'm gonna go for 5.
Okay.
And you?
Also a 5, but I would like to know why you give a 5.
Well, it's a Renaissance palace, which for me isn't that interesting, but the fact it's a ruin adds to the interest level. There's information around about the history, and yeah, like the views, like the atmosphere. And you?
Well, I do not take into account that it's a Renaissance castle, because what is time if not a man-made construction? But yeah, mostly the fact that you can't enter everything, it's off limits. I know it's for safety, but it's a little bit sad. And well, yeah, it's just not that nice. Not very much decorations to be seen. It's very bland grey stone.
Okay, that's us from Verneuil-en-Halatte. Thank you for watching. Give us the stuff.
If you have enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good YouTube stuff.
Do it. Bye.
Bye.